Hello, welcome. We'll get started. Thank you for coming, especially because it's such a sunny day. You'd probably rather be outside, but tonight I'm going to talk about something that there's a lot of information on, and I'm going to cover what I can tonight. What I've done, I've put in the chat a couple of handouts that you can download, and if you can't manage that, I will attach them to the recording and send them out by email. But they also include a link to a YouTube video of a talk, a much longer talk I did on the power and energy of group consciousness a few years ago in Chester at the university. So this is a concise version of that, but focusing more on the power of group meditation. So group meditation works from, I suppose you could call it the experience of our essence, our united essence. So if we come from a position that we are unified, that there is a single reality, but we experience duality, we experience our individual selves, but in moments we are aware of being connected to something far greater, and even maybe in deep meditation connected to all. And the power of group meditation really works with this connectedness. So in science, in spiritual ancient wisdom teachings, this one indivisible, absolute omniscience and intelligence in the universe is called all sorts of names. It's called the Vedanta, it's called the non-duality, some people call it God. In modern science, they call it the unified field, or the unified field of pure consciousness. And it's increasingly being studied, and it's probably something that spirituality and science are starting to agree on. Not all, but certainly those at the frontier of that connection between science and spirituality. So what happens when we meditate? So we are energetic beings. If you consider that the universe is this field of energy, if you like, and all different aspects of that energy are vibrating at different frequencies. And what we experience as physical matter, our separate individual bodies, is where that energy is vibrating at a lower frequency. So things appear solid, even though quantum physics will tell us that we are mostly made of space. We experience the world as the world of matter. We experience things as solid, as real. So when we are just sitting here, we're very aware of our physical body. We have an energy body that I've talked about before that vitalizes and infuses our physical body. We have an emotional nature. We have a mind, and we have some kind of connection to something higher, which you might call your higher self or your soul. When you are just in the world, going about your daily life, if you like, you are very aware of your individual separateness. Okay, so you, because we are separate in matter. But if we move to the level of energy, and we talked a bit about this in another talk, we start to realize that our energy field, or our etheric body, connects to the energy of the environment, it interplays with the energy of other living things, with creatures, with plants, and with the cosmos, if you like, with our planet. And energy pervades through all. So it's almost on a physical level we're separate. When we move up into a higher vibration on an energy level, we start to be able to experience ourselves as unified So this is how we can be separate individuals and unified as one consciousness at the same time. Because as we move up into even higher vibrations, when we are down here on the earth, perhaps using our senses to bring information into our brain and using what we call our lower mind, our logical, rational, concrete mind, we are very aware of our duality. Okay, we're aware of pairs of opposites, we're aware of them and us, we're aware of our separateness. When we close our eyes and we damp down the senses and the information coming from the material world, and we go deep into meditation, we lift our vibration up into an aspect of ourselves that is a much higher vibrational energy. And if you like, we're lifting up and connecting with the part of us that is connected to spirit, to God, that is our soul, that is our higher self. And there are different aspects of that self. That's a whole nother talk. We can go into more detail. So if you like, when we decide to come into meditation, what we are doing is we are lifting up into the vibration or the energy of our soul, of our higher self. And at that level, the soul is connected to this universality, this universal field of pure consciousness, of infinite possibilities, of universal mind, of spirit, of God, if you like. And as we practice a meditation and as we progress on a spiritual path, we are able to lift up into higher and higher vibrational energies to make contact with more of that collective consciousness, if you like. And that is where we start to experience an increase in our intuition and our ability to bring wisdom through down into matter, to spiritualize the material world. And this is really what we're here to do. So when we go into meditation, we are shifting from this realm of space, time, and dimension up into a higher vibrational energy where there is no space, time, or dimension. I don't know if you notice in meditation, if you go deep into meditation, you often lose a sense of your physical body at all. So it's, you can go into meditation and your physical body disappears. And if you go very deeply into meditation, sometimes there's a sense of no boundaries to who you are. There's almost a connection to all that is, and you go inward, but you expand outward. And it's very hard to use words when describing meditation because we're moving up into a realm where words don't really work. We're moving up into the higher realms of the Buddhic nature where the understanding is not in terms of words, but we do our best with the words. So when a group of people come together, and they lift up into that higher spiritual energy, if you like. They lift up into connection with their soul, with their higher self. And when a group of people do that, they raise up the vibration of the whole group. And this has an incredible power. So I'll come back to that in a minute, but I just want to talk about a little bit. We're into now the beginning of an age of Aquarius, and this is a major shift for the collective consciousness, for the collective whole of mankind, if you like. And the age of Aquarius is the age of group relations. There's an incoming ray called the seventh ray. And this seventh ray really helps to organize, especially group work and the power and magic that can be created through working with others. When you're working at a level of the higher energies of the heart. So when, as more of humanity progress along their spiritual path, what we're finding is people are starting to open the chakras or the centers above the diaphragm. So more and more of humanity are opening the heart center and the throat center. So to explain those just briefly, most of humanity, the centers below the diaphragm are open. The centers above the diaphragm tend to be the higher spiritual centers. The centers below the diaphragm tend to work more with the personality. This is where we have our ego work to deal with, our issues to transmute, our learning and growth. So for example, an example might help. If I, in my solar plexus, so in this chakra here, if I am feeling very angry and upset and have a real grievance with somebody, if I am able to detach from that emotion and lift my energies up into my heart, what will happen is my heart will lift that anger up into love. And what will happen is I will lift up into seeing that person as a soul. So I will see them as a soul who is consumed by their own emotional issues, their past. They're working through their growth process, and they are doing their best. So I lift up into feeling compassion and forgiveness for that person. And so suddenly I am seeing their higher nature because I'm lifting up into my own higher nature. Doesn't mean I condone their actions, but it does mean that I connect. Okay, I connect with what is universal in both of us. Okay, so down here, I'm in my ego. I'm right and you're wrong. I'll love you if you love me, or I'll love you if you behave the way I want you to. Up here, I'll love you anyway. I will connect with your humanity, with your soul. I will see your soul in any given situation. So we would talk about that as lifting up into the higher spiritual energies, the higher heart qualities. And when the heart combines with the throat chakra, as it opens, is about expressing truth. Okay, so truth combined with the heart energy becomes, when people are able to lift up into these higher energies in group work, we start getting really inspirational group work. So groups that operate down here will have all kinds of power plays going on. So if you've ever been in a group and someone's right and someone's wrong and someone dominates and someone else, when the love of power is operating in a group, there's lots of egos vying for position. It's a separateness. It's the group hasn't come into a cohesion and a united purpose where ego is set aside. You will have power and energy differentials. So someone who is taking energy from others is stepping into their power at the expense of the power of others. They're disempowering others. When groups move up into the heart, no, there is no inequality in the power. In fact, people empower each other. So a group working up here, for example, if you were all sitting around in a discussion, a group working up here would just naturally, the energy would just move to the next person who had something to contribute, and there would be a cohesiveness in the group. There would be a sharing, and everyone in the group would feel valued, and there would be an equality in the group. Down here, there's all sorts of ego games and power games. So what happens in meditation, if we are meditating purely for our own gain, so if our aim in meditation is, I want to feel less stressed and feel peaceful and calm, Okay, it's sort of around here. Okay, to work in group meditation, truly work powerfully in group meditation, you have to put your own ego needs aside and lift up into a place where you are looking at the greater good, where you are meditating for the greater good, for humanity, as an act of service, as something that you know you can do. You will still get the benefits of feeling a lot more peaceful, feeling integrated, feeling clear, becoming in touch with your own intuitive wisdom, feeling strong. All of those positives of meditation will still occur, but it's where your intention comes from. And the heart is all about intention. So if the intention truly is down here, the group meditation won't be as powerful. If the whole group are moving up into this place here, heartfelt desire for the best for all, to make a difference, to transform humanity, to move us through a period of challenge, to help others. And this is where group meditation starts to become extremely powerful. So groups that are driven by ego, by personalities, they lack the true connection of the heart, and they lack a coherence. When we open up into our heart, not only is there a coherence within our own energy system and between our lower aspects and our higher, more spiritual aspects, but there becomes a possibility of a coherence with others also working from their heart or from their higher centers and contacting the higher spiritual energies. So a group that's working in the ego level won't achieve their united group purpose, however well however well-meaning some are, or maybe, many groups will start with a really good purpose, but it sort of falls apart in all the ego dramas and the issues that come up between the personalities. So for true group meditation, it's putting aside your personality needs, putting aside your ego, and just lifting up into the part of you that wants to make a difference for the greater good. And that is where we lift up into something called the will to good, or goodwill, or the will to God. So it's when you're lifting up into your higher aspects, so you're connecting with the will of universal consciousness, of the Vedanta, of God, of spirit, whatever words you use to describe that intelligence that's present throughout all. So group meditation is an act of service. When we bring the love of the heart, this unconditional truth, together with the wisdom of the higher mind, of the intuitive mind, we get a very powerful energy, this love wisdom energy enacting. And this brings about the possibility of what's called creative intelligence. And this creative intelligence is where we have a capacity to manifest positive inspirational change in the world. And this works on an individual level. We're starting to understand that energy follows thought, and that we are co-creators, that we have the capacity to affect our reality by our thoughts. And in meditation, of course, when we detach, when we step back from the thoughts that run in our mind, what we're essentially doing is we're stepping back from the thoughts of the ego and the lower mind into a place of the silent observer, or the silent witness. And we're just observing those thoughts. So in meditation, when we connect with the breath, or we use a mantra, or a candle, whatever we're using to focus our concentration, we're enabling that detachment. And that detachment is what frees us to move up into the higher vibrational energies. We've left the thoughts of the ego mind, they're still going to play through our mind, but it's almost like they're in the background. They come in and they go out. We have detached from them and we're just observing them. And this means they lose our power of attachment. This is where the cord of attachment is. So when we detach, we lift up into the higher realms of our spiritual self, if you like. We lift up into a capacity we call our Buddhic nature, or the Atma, which is where we can connect to the universal whole, to God, to this universal field of consciousness. So when we come into meditation as a group, if we can all lift up into that higher aspect of ourselves and lift, if you like, detach from our ego and then unite, then we have an intention to unite from the heart. This means that we almost create an identity or a group soul, if you like, and that has more power than the sum of the parts. It has exponential power. And because energy follows thought, if then in the group meditation we are guided through thought patterns that invoke images, especially that we're working in the intuitional realm, and we bring in visualizations of how the change we want to invoke in the world, and we start to work in that way that we do in group meditation. With all of us doing that, this is extremely powerful. So what I want to if you remember a few talks ago, we looked at the capacity of about 15% of people in the world who are able to lift their vibrational energy that they're vibrating on all the time. So this is people who are opening the heart, opening the throat, and spending most of their time up in these higher centers. Now, you can't do that until you have worked through a lot of the issues that come up with the lower centers and the lower chakras. You've built that beautiful, there's a rainbow bridge you build over lifetimes that enables this energy to transmute up into the higher centers. And you've coordinated and integrated your lower nature. Your personality nature becomes a useful vehicle for the soul. And as that vehicle becomes, this integration process means the soul is able to bring energy through the personality and out into the world to spiritualize matter. And it means that in meditation, we are going to come into an alignment between the soul. The personality ego steps aside and the soul can pour energy down through us. And that's why we use the visualization of opening up to light, to love. We're opening the mind and the heart centers and bringing them into a coherence that makes us a very powerful being for change. And when a whole group of us combine doing this, the effect is incredibly powerful. And remember, I said that 15% of people in the world can raise the energy of the other 85% of people who are not aware of any of this. They're happily working through the energies in the lower vibrations because that's where they're up to. They haven't felt the call of their soul up into these higher vibrations and the call to service, if you like, that integration and coordination naturally brings. So people tend to come to meditation when the call of the soul is reasonably anchored in their being. Sometimes people will come to it sporadically and it'll take a few years before they make a true commitment to meditation. And then they tend to naturally find their way toward group work and like-minded souls who are also working in meditation. And that just comes, you can't force that. It's why people will say to me, oh, I think my son would benefit from your meditation. It's like, no, he's got to come to it. That's his path. So meditation tends to call you when you're ready. What I want to read is just a little bit, about the effect of group meditation. Okay, when you meditate, you align with the universal mind. If you like, our soul is in constant meditation. So I think of meditation as just lifting up and joining my soul in that beautifully still, peaceful place. And that alignment creates a power. So if I'm doing that in my own individual self, when a group of us come together, and we don't have to be physically together, and we don't have to be in the same part of the world, we don't even have to be in the same time zone, because up in these higher vibrations, time and space don't exist. So this is hard to get your head around. You could meditate as a group with years apart and still be connected. And that's like, time is not linear. Okay. That's a whole nother talk. Time's more like a spiral, if it exists at all. Time only exists down here in the material world of lower vibration. In the higher vibrationals, there is no time. There is no space. Okay, it's quite hard. The best way to think of it, when you go deep into a meditation and you lose track of time. Sometimes you're meditating for ages and it feels like no time at all. Sometimes you feel like you've been in meditation for no time at all and lots of time has passed. So that might give you an indication, and that the idea that your body disappears is because the dimension of space has disappeared in this realm. So there was some studies, well, Maharishi, you might have heard of the Maharishi effect. Maharishi introduced transcendental meditation to the world, and there were numerous studies done as meditation caught on, especially in the West. And what they found is when 1% of a community practiced meditation, the unified field or calming energy generated by that group would reach out and influence the rest of the community, resulting in increased peace and harmony. And they can measure this in all sorts of ways. So it just requires 1%. This effect has been demonstrated at local, national, and worldwide levels. It's like there's a critical mass needed to affect the collective consciousness. So there's a critical mass of people lifting up into that higher energy that then causes ripples in the pond. And those ripples go out and affect everybody subconsciously. So they don't have to be, they won't even be aware. And this is the power of group meditation. This is what many groups all over the world are doing, lots in group meditation at the moment, because they know and they understand that this is what makes a difference. And this is a way that you can work and make a difference. So modern science explains this. So when people meditate together with unified good intention, so that's the heart, they're alpha brainwaves. So when you meditate, you go into an alpha brainwave state where the frequency of your brainwaves slow right down, and they come into a coherence with the electromagnetic radiation of the heart, and your whole body comes into a beautiful sort of a synergy and alignment. So what happens is these alpha brainwaves become synchronized or exhibits what quantum physics called coherence. So this group of people not only are coherent within themselves, between their own heart and brain, if you like, but they become coherent with each other. And this causes that sort of ripple effect, that beautiful coherence, that energy goes out, that those alpha brainwave states. Remember, at an energy level, we're all connected and we affect every living thing we come in contact with energetically. There's an interplay of energy with all living things. So that wave goes into their subconscious mind. So people don't even have to be open to it for it to have a positive effect. So the power of group meditation to reduce conflict, create peace and harmony in conflict zones has been documented in over 600 studies in 30 countries. And that was a few years ago. There'll be a lot more than that now. Okay. Some interesting work that I've come across with a scientist who works in spirituality, a woman called Lynn McTaggart, and she's written, if you really want to understand quantum physics in relation to spirituality, read her book, The Field. And she's also written another book called The Power of Eight. And what she found, because she does a lot of intention work, and you can do it all the time, sending out, she'll get a group of people worldwide together to send a positive intention to a particular conflict zone in the world. And then she will show documented evidence of it having effects. She's doing a lot at the moment with positive intention about how we move through this pandemic and how we have positive change and how we get back into life and all of this. So if you fancy working in that way, you can have a look at her website. But what she found in this Power of Eight, she started noticing that when she got, it seemed like getting groups of about 8 people together, and they'd lift up into a higher state from the heart, and they might send positive intention to an area, or they might actually focus in on a particular individual or for healing, or they, it doesn't matter, this energy of group intention for positive good. And what she was finding was the people in the group were experiencing really positive transformations in their life, miraculous healings and big changes and transformations in their life. Now, these people coming into these groups, their intention wasn't for anything for themselves. They were coming into these meditation groups, and their intention that day might be to send peace into one of the worst ghetto slums in America that was experiencing really awful conflict. And what they were finding is they were experiencing less conflict in their own lives. And she started researching with this. She started finding that people that were sending healing to others were having healing themselves. So there's something about participating in group meditation or group intention in this way that seems to have a really positive effect on us, even though that's not our intention. So you can read some more about that if you want to. The last thing I want to cover before we actually do some group meditation is just a little bit about what I would call the Christ consciousness. Okay, so groups are powerful vehicles for change. And this age of Aquarius is all about the age of right relations. And this is partly because of this incoming energy of the 7th ray. And this will bring a response or a desire to form and work in groups to create change in the world. And we're seeing this already. And part of the power of, say, the internet, of social media, of anything that connects us is the 7th ray. It's setting up the vehicles for connection to enable us to work in this way. So the 7th ray also brings in a tremendous inflow of what's called the Christ principle of love and light, and the quality of loving understanding that is present when love and intelligence combine love, wisdom, if you like. So the Christ consciousness, you could think that, I mean, Jesus Christ, who came to our earth more than 2,000 years ago, was probably the first human being who was able to truly exhibit the Christ consciousness, to bring that higher energy through down through his being and radiate it out into the world to teach us about what the Christ consciousness is. So he embodied this Christ consciousness, this intelligent love, or this wise love. What will happen in the age of Aquarius is group consciousness will supersede individual consciousness. So up until now, it's been individuals developing spiritually to bring through this Christ consciousness. What's going to happen as we work in group meditation is increasingly groups will bring through this Christ consciousness. And the effect is far more powerful. It's exponential. Okay, it's not just multiplying even, it's far more than adding, it's often logarithmic. And so the effects are incredible. And the seventh ray will work with those who have the capacity to integrate and fuse mankind along what's called right lines, along right relations within yourself, between your lower personality aspect and your higher soul, right relations with other people, in your family, in your community, in your nation, between nations, within humanity, within the cosmos. Okay, so this energy works toward the free circulation and the free interchange and sharing of all that's needed for right human living and right human relations. And this is why, if we use the power of communication through the internet, through our phones, through social media, through email and other platforms, through we can use this positively. This is almost enabling group meditation in a way that we've never seen before, because people don't have to be geographically and physically together. You know, we're all in different places geographically, yet we can come together powerfully, and you can feel the power of that group connection. So people are coming together to meditate and create change. You can create change far easily up in those higher vibrational energies. Because energy follows thought. When you're in those higher frequencies, you can create change far easier than down in dense matter. Okay, that's a whole nother talk to explain how that works. But if you just trust me that when you're working in meditation, your creative power to change both your own life and the world is far greater than when you're sort of more operating in your individual physical self, if you like. And next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about using universal prayer and meditation, especially the Great Invocation and a greater understanding of the power of that invocation. So just to finish, whenever there is love, there is connection. Whenever there is an absence of love, there is disconnection. So we are beings of love at our highest level, at our soul level. That is what we are. When we feel connection, when we feel connected to others, we are radiating in love. When we feel fear and separate, this is an absence of connection and an absence of love. So when we go into meditation, it's really important that we lift up into that connection, that we truly want to do this for the greater good, and we recognize our brother as ourselves, and we recognize that this is working in that unity, that universality that connects us all, and that is the power. And just lastly, just to mention, we'll go into this a little bit more next week, but especially at the full moon and the new moon, the effect that groups can have in meditation is much greater. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is after the meditation, when we're in the share, one of the handouts that I've got is some opportunities if you want to be involved in more group meditation. Just some avenues where you can do that. So I'm going to leave that there. I've given you plenty to think about, and we'll move to the meditation. So if you get yourself comfortable, I'll just get What's up on the screen? Oh, I just want to, before we go into the meditation, I have a quote. If I can get it. A famous quote by Margaret Mead. So never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And if you look back through history, you find that to be a very true statement. Okay. So get yourself comfortable, sitting reasonably upright. Let everything that I've been talking about go. We can come back to talking about it after the meditation, but for now, I want to lift up into your desire to create a better world for all. Okay, so we're going to work in group meditation. And this affirmation of love is one of the things that lifts us up into our heart, into the higher heart qualities, into the heart chakra, and helps to unite us as a group. And remember, it doesn't matter if you're here in person or you're joining us in the recording, we're still united. So we'll repeat the affirmation of love. In the center of all love, I stand. From that center, I, the soul, will outward move. From that center, I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. So just close your eyes, and I want to come into this present moment. And we'll begin by connecting to the earth. So I want you to imagine that you're sending roots down into the earth, either through your feet or through the base of your spine, just connecting to the planet, to Mother Earth. And now we'll come into this moment. Just notice your body sitting on the chair. Notice the clothes on your skin. Just allow sounds to come in. Be very aware of this moment in time. And now take that consciousness, that awareness, and I want you to bring it to your breath. So just focus gently on the breath, watching the breath come into your body and watching the breath leave. Now with each breath, as your body begins to relax, I want you to see if you can take the breath a little deeper. Breathing down through a channel deep in the center of your being. So if your mind is distracted, as soon as you notice, just come back to the breath. The act of following the breath is what helps us to detach, to connect with the silent observer, that still peaceful place deep inside of us. So the breath will take you by the hand and take you into the quiet place. Now before we begin, I want you to bring your awareness to the center of your chest, to your heart center. And in that heart center, I want you to connect to all who are doing this meditation with us, to this group. So we connect through love and through a high aspiration to work in group meditation for the greater good of all. So connect with your love for humanity, for the planet, for life itself. Now imagine that your heart is filling with light and love and gratitude that we have this opportunity today. To be really grateful that we can work in this way and we can work together. And we hold a space for each other. We hold that love in our heart for each other. Now imagine that through your heart you can connect to the very highest aspect of your being, your soul, your higher self. That higher vibrational energy. And I want you to imagine that you are bringing white or violet, purple or gold light down from your higher self through the crown of your head. And it's coming down into the major energy centers or chakras associated with the spine. Imagine the center in your heart as a vessel to receive and distribute this light throughout the rest of your body. So your body is aligned, all centers are aligned and integrated and communicating. The light is coming into your heart and flowing out to all parts of your physical body, filling yourself with light, raising your vibration. As you breathe, draw down the light into your heart. As you breathe in, as you breathe out, feel it radiate out throughout your body. And as your physical body fills with light and feels lighter, allow that light to radiate out into your etheric body or your energy field that surrounds your physical body. So light from your higher self flowing down into your heart, radiating out through your body, through into your aura. And in your physical body, this light is purifying, cleansing, and healing. Strengthening your physical body, your immune system, calming your emotions, lifting you up into the higher heart qualities, strengthening your mind and opening you up to that intuitive wisdom of the higher mind. Now allow this light to flow out to fill your home, to touch the hearts and minds of all who reside with you, all living beings. Now this light that is pouring down through you from this universal field of consciousness is flowing out to fill your street and all who share this neighborhood with you. It's flowing out into your community. It's flowing out into the town or city in which you live. And then it's flowing out to fill this whole nation, and you can feel it connecting with all of those in the group so that we are working easily together. Now allow this light to fill this part of the world, bringing understanding and inspiration, invoking the higher heart qualities in all that it touches, opening people to the Christ consciousness. Now allow this light to fill this whole hemisphere, joining with all other groups who are working in this way, all light workers. Allow it to fill this whole planet, touching the hearts and minds of all of humanity. Now imagine you can see the planet as a whole from space, and you can see our beautiful planet surrounded by this light. You can see it healing and restoring our planet, restoring the balance in nature. So the air is clean and fresh. The water's restored, the ocean's pure and clear. The ozone layer healthy. See the animal and the plant life flourishing. See mankind in right relation within each individual, between individuals, within communities and families, nations, and in right relation with our planet and the animals and the plants and the minerals. See the light flowing into the hearts and minds of all humankind, invoking peace, that will to good, and the desire for right relations. Lifting up our awareness and the collective consciousness so that we can find a way to live in peace and harmony with all. Hold a space, hold this energy, and let it radiate out. In your heart, connect with your love for mankind, for your brother, for your sister, for the soul in each and every being. Let there be no division. Let there be only connection. Continue to hold this energy, working together, working with all the groups throughout the world who are working in this way. It only takes 1% of us to change the world. Be that change. If your mind becomes distracted, come back to the breath, back to your heart. Let your heart be that vessel that's radiating out the love, the light, the highest aspect of who you are. Your truth. And now gently opening your eyes, you'll see on your screen the words of this prayer that was given for group meditation, for individual invocation. And when we say the great invocation together, it is of great power, and people all over the world say this invocation every day, individually and in groups. So let's say it from our heart, from the place where we mean what we say. Give it conviction. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Ooh. Namaste. We're going to pause there so you can go and clap to support our NHS, and we'll come back in a few moments and continue with any questions or sharing. Welcome back. What I have put together in the handout is quite a detailed handout. There's a handout from a talk It goes into more detail on everything that I've spoken on tonight. But there's also another handout where there's this opportunities if you want to do more in group meditation. So I'm just going to quickly go through these. Let me just, okay. So the Lucius Trust, which was an organization that was set up in association with Alice Bailey, and they have an arcane school, do a lot of educational on ancient wisdom, esoteric writings. They have full and new moon meditations. They have a cycle of conferences, meditations, which basically every time there's a world conference in which they're making major decisions on a global level, days before the conference, you start sending love and positive energy, lifting all the conference delegates up into their highest good, lifting the desire for the highest outcome. Things like the sustainable development conferences and stuff, and you just get a notification and you just do that yourself. There's goodwill meditations on a Wednesday at noon where you unite with everybody working with the will to good in the world. There's World Invocation Day, which is the Gemini full moon. So that's not tomorrow, next Friday. And Ted and I are going to be talking more about the significance of World Invocation Day next week on Thursday evening. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about what some of the deeper meanings of those words in the Great Invocation mean. Okay, what does it mean when it says seal the door where evil dwells? Okay, because there's a lot more in that invocation than might be evident just by the words, especially in our context now. There's triangles meditation where you can, as part of world service, you can join with people all around the world. You form 3 people anywhere in the world, form a triangle, and you agree to, in visualization, invoke that triangle. It's a triangle of love and light, and you imagine it, and the energies, the higher energies coming through into humanity, and you do that daily as part of your meditation practice. Unify.org have a lot of world peace global meditations. Humanities team have a global oneness day and a lot of world peace meditations. There's a Fuji declaration that was signed after the war. It's a transnational alliance for peace where you actually sign and make a declaration that you want to be involved, and they have little side groups like the Solar Woman have group meditations, and they often have meditations. The UN have an International Day of Peace on the 21st of September where people all around the world are involved in all sorts of different group meditations. Lynn McTaggart, I mentioned, she does a lot of work. I was involved in some intention meditations. We were doing a lot of work on the Middle East crisis and sending positive intentions in there. The Charter for Compassion do a lot of group meditations and training in compassion and group meditations. And that's just some of the ones that I've come across. If you start going out on Google, you'll find more. So that's just giving you a start anyway, if you want to do more of this sort of work. Right. Okay. Has anybody got any questions or anything to add or any comments? Oh, yes, Philip. Lovely. Oh, hang on. You might have to, oh, we can't hear you. You might have to unmute yourself. Hang on.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your talk. I was just thinking about, I have done the triangle meditation, and something else I've done is I use the Great Invocation in something called transmission meditation, where you say it together in a group.
Yeah.
And you, with this, use the Ajna Center between the eyebrows, like a directing centre. At the moment, of course, with the virus, not able to do that, and sort of doing it remotely, like you were saying, at
Yeah.
groups in this country, and there's other groups abroad.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I think there's more and more as that seventh ray comes down, especially anyone with seventh ray in their nature or who's particularly sensitive to that energy. There's more and more initiatives popping up all over the place. And one of the great things about this crisis is I think the number of people who have had time on their hands and have started to explore maybe meditation for their own personal benefit, but that's where it begins. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That's where it begins. People start learning to meditate because you need to be reasonably comfortable in meditation to then go and work in group meditation. Yeah. And so I think this period of time that we have had is probably, I would say, a lot more people meditating or exploring meditation, which is fantastic.
Yeah, so the lockdown and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it has. In some ways, it's forced us, hasn't it? Which I think is a good thing. It'll just be interesting how we transition. If you like, many people in lockdown may have been naturally contemplative, naturally lifting up into that sort of intuitive, where am I going with my life? What am I doing? That higher energy. How do we then bring that down into enacting change in our life? So how do we actually come out of this period into normal life, so to speak? That's the challenge. That's the next challenge. Yeah. Anybody else? No. No questions? No. No.
Is it possible just ask something else?
Yeah.
You think with the idea of working in groups, I think Alice Bailey wrote quite a lot in some of her books about the idea of group consciousness and group work.
Yeah.
Would you be saying anything else about that next week? Is that something, sort of there are techniques and things which group work throws up? Or...
There are. I wasn't going to go into that particularly next week. I sort of feel like people will naturally come to that in their own way, if you like, depending what you're drawn to. But and all groups work differently, and you will naturally be drawn to a group that resonates with your normal vibration, if you like. So where in your sort of spiritual development, which chakras are opening, how open they are, how much energy is coming into your being, how much soul energy is working through your system, you will naturally gravitate to others who are of a similar working in a similar way. And if you like harmonic sort of resonance, it's like you come in to form the same note. You come into a harmony. You come into a harmony. There's not dissonance. So quite often, a lot of the problems with the ego problems in groups, it's almost like instead of a beautiful symphony where everyone's in harmony and in tune, you've got, do you know what I mean? And it's just not able to function as effectively. But it's also part of our learning, because it's not just groups. This idea of the power of group consciousness doesn't just apply to meditation. It's going to have to flow out through all of the way that we operate. So in business, in politics, in schools, in education, anywhere where people are interacting. And it's very interesting that this time we're in now has stopped us interacting in the way we normally do. It's almost cut all our ties, put us back in our homes with our families. And now we have an opportunity to go out and choose how we're interacting. And maybe we might form different groups and different interactions. We may find that this time do you know what? I'm not drawn to that anymore. I'm looking for something else. Do you know what I mean? I think though, and certainly we are if social media is anything to go by, we are certainly questioning a lot of, you know, the collective decisions that are happening in terms of leadership and things. I would say that we don't have the group cohesion going on. I would say it's the difference between the power of love. So when you have connection, you have love, and that has an incredible transformational power. If you have the love of power, you're not going to work effectively in a group. It's going to be me, ego, protecting mine, you know, looking after my resources, my power. Me is separate. It's separative rather than
there's a cleavage.
Yeah,
Cleavage, sort of cleavage.
Totally.
Energy is
yeah
causing a cleavage.
Yeah, and you know, we have a lot of humanity are still operating from an ego level, because that's just where they are, and they get a taste maybe occasionally of lifting up into the higher realms. But you know, we all go through many lifetimes, and we have to develop all levels. We have to open all those chakras, and we are where we are. Do you know what I mean? People will not be even attracted to group meditation until they reach a certain point. But what I like about it is, you know, if you're feeling powerless to change or to have an effect in the world, it is a way that you can have a very powerful effect. You can practice putting your own ego needs aside, come into your higher heart, and work in groups. And because of the internet and because of this way that we're connected, we don't even have to be in the same room anymore. You know, and that is a you know, the Aquarius is about pouring forth for the thirsty, so pouring forth the spiritual energies for the thirsty. So it's very much about the spiritualizing matter, and this is now a way that we can work. And I think the other thing about being into lockdown is, I know for myself, I have quite quickly had to explore the technologies of connecting in this way. Like, we're all in our separate homes, but we can come together on a Thursday night, and we can have a think, we can have a talk on something that moves us up into our higher mind, our abstract mind, and we can consider things that expand our consciousness and open us up to new ideas, and we can come together in group meditation through technology. You know, and it's something that I know myself, I would have, I'll get round to that. But suddenly you're forced, it's there. And so, you know, this is a catalyst for major shift, in my opinion, and my hope and trust. Michael, if you, I could think, if you unmute yourself, yeah.
Hear me? Thank you for an interesting talk. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Well, what I was going to say was, if you think about it, that you have all these disparate groups around the world now doing these collective meditations and pouring out this huge amount of energy. And my question is this: if you see all this, it's been done in a global scale, that perhaps the last time it was done, people worshipped gods thousands of years ago. And so do you think in some ways there are new archetypes being created, and this will end up resonating with the global collective consciousness?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Because it can't not really, can it? Because there are so many people on this same frequency. Like I say, if you think about it, say thousands of years ago, major world gods, if you see, were created with myth and belief from, say, just a few 100,000 people. But now we've got millions of people doing this. The amount of power to create an archetype, if you like, is 1,000 times more than it's ever been.
That's right.
I can't help but think it's going to manifest in all kinds of interesting ways.
Yeah.
Some that are going to kind of change the direction of, and for most people, as you've said before, the influence won't be that conscious. But for those people who are kind of on the cusp, it will certainly help them rise.
It will wake up a lot of people who are just starting to open the heart. Just that sort of, when the soul is starting to knock on the door of the personality, when the personality is starting to become coordinated and integrated. So a person's actions and their words are congruent. You know, they do what they say, they mean what they say, they're starting to speak their truth, they're starting to develop emotional intelligence, they're starting to step back sometimes, even if they can't control, even if they're still controlled by their emotions, they're stepping back and say, I was controlled by my emotions there. Do you know that they're recognizing they're in the throes of their emotional energy? So people who are right on that cusp, people who are dissatisfied, they might have made lots of money in the world and had the car and the house and all of the trappings of so-called success that are supposed to make you fulfilled and happy, and they're like, well, I'm still looking for something. What is it I'm looking for? It's not out there. So they start to get sort of little intuitive nudges from their soul saying, it's in here, it's in here. And it's always strange to me that to connect out there to vast all, I go in here. Do you know what I mean? I go in to connect outward.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just to expand on what you're just saying, the analogy I've always got is like, it's like a hand. It's like we're all fingers and we all think we're individual, but the deeper you go in, we're all part of the same body.
That's right. That's exactly right. And if you've ever gone into a very deep state of meditation, or you've had some kind of mystical experience, there is only one.
Yeah.
There isn't anything else. And it doesn't even have to be an all-encompassing, amazing, blissful experience. There's just nothing else.
And I've been lucky enough to experience those things, so I know, I understand where you are when you say words don't actually cover it.
No.
Something that people need to experience for themselves.
I mean, anytime that we are awestruck, anytime that we are breathless, like when we're like to a sunset, in that moment, there's just one. Do you see what I mean? We have moments of connection like that all the time. So we know on a level beyond words, we know there's more than just this. And we don't always know what it is, and every different belief system and faith and everything will give it different words, and we're trying to puzzle it out, but that's all, it's all part of it.
And I think that archetype we're creating will
Yes.
just add power to that.
Yes. Well, in many ways, if you like, you could think of Christ consciousness, which, if you think of Christ as an avatar, what was the essential message that Christ embodied and brought through to the world? And it's the message that's the same when he was here as now. And that is, love your brother as yourself, forgive. You see what I mean? It was the message of the heart, of the true heart connection between you're your brother's keeper. He taught us, if you like, he showed us how to live that Christ and embody that Christ consciousness. He showed us that the body doesn't matter, that you can sacrifice the body, and what is still there is that Christ consciousness and that connection. And so, if you like, you could say that the Christ consciousness is like an archetypal energy that we're connecting to.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it's been renourished by all these meditations.
Totally, totally. And I think we're in exciting times, because never before has it been possible to connect the world like it is now.
Exactly.
And you can choose, you know, even if you're going on social media, you can choose to use it as a kind of an ego gossip, power games, dramas. You can go and have opinion. You know, opinion is the lowest form of intellect, if you like, because you don't have to, it doesn't have to have any basis. You can go in there and play that game if you want to. Or you can use social media to receive inspiring, collective archetypes, information, inspiration. You can pick and choose what comes through into your energy, if you like, into your platform. And like, I'm hooked up on Facebook to all kinds of meditation and spiritual sites. And most of what comes through is all amazingly positive stuff. So I start to see a world view of all these wonderful changes and these things that, you know, every soul has a part to play. Every soul on the planet has a unique contribution to make to this collective unfolding of consciousness, this collective raising of our humanity's collective consciousness up till eventually we're all operating at the level of a Buddha or a Christ. You know, that's the aim. And everybody's doing their own part, and everybody has a unique way of doing that. And I'm amazed at what people are doing. You know, it really gives me hope when I see it. It's like, wow, all these different ways that people are connecting. But don't get me wrong, as you lift up, as more light comes down into humanity, it invokes the darkness that needs healing. So when you see a rise of the darkness, of the derisive, of the material, of the competitive, of the ego, of the separative, of the power games, when you see an increase in that, that's a positive thing. Because even though it may feel like our world's a mess and there's so much conflict and people are treating each other in awful ways, the response to the rise in the light is an equal rise in that which needs healing. Because when the light shines into the unconscious collective or super fear and doubt and ego and all of that needs transforming, it brings it to the surface. And so it's like stirring up the muddy pond. You get that stirring up before you get the filtering out, and you get the purifying, and things get worse before they get better. So the fact that we're seeing what we're seeing is actually very positive. If we weren't seeing anything, that would be a cause for concern, because then we wouldn't be moving forward, we wouldn't be growing. So always remember that the 15% can hold the vibration, can lift the vibration for the other 85. And if you yourself take responsibility for keeping your vibrational energy high, like the talk a few weeks ago, you are playing your part in service to the whole, because you're not separate. Every time you evolve spiritually, that's an active service for the whole. Man, know thyself. Every time you resolve something within your psyche, every time you shine the light of consciousness on something unconscious in you and heal it and bring it up from the lower centers up into the higher centers, up into the very higher centers, you are playing your part. And this is, I think, it gives us hope and it gives us trust. And if we can then add the capacity to work in group meditation, we really feel like we're in the driving seat and we're right on that cusp of change. We're, and you need the the thinkers of the world. You need the inspirational thinkers to drive that change, to drag those who don't want to change kicking and screaming into a new reality, if you like. So if you want to be part, be the change you want to see in the world. If you want to be part, be the inspired, be the one who's driving the change. And that's what group meditation, that's the opportunity it gives you. And like I'm involved in all sorts every week, and it's as part of my life as cleaning my teeth. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it becomes part of your life. But Lynn McTaggart's work, the rewards that come yourself are a deep sense of fulfillment, a deep sense of working with your soul, and you're on your path, and your compass is aligned in the right direction, and you're not alone. And that's the key. When you work in a lot of spiritual advancement, there can often be a feeling, and it's part of the soul strengthening, there can be a feeling of going it alone, of feeling isolated. Suddenly everyone around you is not interested in what you're interested. They're not talking the same language as you. You're having to go out on a limb. And so when you're involved in group meditation, you're coming together with others who are where you are at, and you're also experiencing, it helps with that feeling of feeling isolated or feeling on your own, because you're not. So does that help? Yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, well, I think we'll leave it there. So next week, the plan is, it's the eve of the Gemini full moon, which is the Christ Festival. Okay, so the Christ Festival is very much about bringing this Christ consciousness down into matter, and us acting, if you like, as a channel or a vessel for that. So we're going to, Ted will talk a bit about the astrology of especially Gemini. I will talk a little bit about the opportunity we have at the full moon, because the energies for bringing down higher energies that really help us through a collective invocation are much more open at the full moon. And I'm just going to go into just a bit more detail about the world, about the Great Invocation, just so that you know when you're repeating the Great Invocation what it means, and the power of repeating that daily. And the day after, on the Friday, next Friday, is World Invocation Day, where people all around the world constantly are repeating the Great Invocation in a mass cry for help for humanity, if you like. So thank you very much. To those who are here live, and to those who've joined us in the recording. It's been a lovely evening, and namaste.